Saturday night, UFC 250 ends. I'm about to go to bed. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good. It's like 1:30 a.m. Eastern time. About to go to bed. And then Conor McGregor tweets that he has decided to retire. Yada, yada, yada. I'm up for another 4 hours after talking to him, and I went to bed at 5 o'clock. But it was all worth it. It was great, and I appreciate him talking to me. I'm assuming you've seen the tweet. You may have seen some of the quotes. I know you were disconnected from the world, but did you see the quotes or no?
No, I didn't see the quotes.
Okay, thanks, DC.
I
I appreciate you supporting my work.
I just wish Conor would just pick better timing, because it's
Yeah.
like these fighters are giving themselves and their all to everything. And every time he does something like that, he completely like takes the story, right? So we went from, I mean, before Amanda got to the back to be celebrated, it had shifted to Conor McGregor. And it's cool, man. Like, okay, you're the biggest star in the UFC. Everybody knows it. But like, I mean, could Amanda have like had her moment, a little bit? That's the only thing that I don't like about the time. And I get it. I get that I get that he's upset and disappointed and wants to fight. Like, we all want to see you fight.
Right.
Man, let Amanda have her moment. Like, she just put out this fantastic performance. And now all anybody wants to talk about is what Conor's doing.
So I don't disagree with your point at all. And in fact, you can make a case that if you drop the tweet, say Monday afternoon, it's a lot more effective.
What's the difference?
Saturday
there
night.
is no difference. There is no difference. Like, you could say that at any time.
So here's what I think happened. And I spoke to him afterwards, and what he said to me was, I'm frustrated. Basically, I've had enough. I'm frustrated. I want to fight. Now, there's a lot going on in the sport, right? There's a lot going on with the top guys. There's Henry Cejudo walking away. There's John Jones openly feuding with the UFC. There's Jorge Masvidal openly feuding with the UFC. And now there's Conor McGregor. But here's the thing. A lot of people want to group all these four stories together. And while there may be common denominators, the four stories are actually very different. Their causes and their complaints are actually very different. So let me break it down like this for the people, right? Henry Cejudo walked away after his win over Dominic Cruz, for the most part, because he feels like he's not getting enough money, right? He also is saying like family, things like that, but he just wants to get more money to fight right now, right? He just wants more money to defend his 135 title. Okay, let's put that in a vacuum.
All right, wait, just a real quick question. Like, you said all that, and my internet must be gone or something for a while, because I heard, the last thing I heard you say was Jorge Masvidal is upset too, and then you stopped. I don't know what's wrong with your internet over there. It's bad.
Oh, is it bad, Corporate Jake?
So it was my internet? Was it mine? Did you realize that I was gone for a while?
No, you were fine. We saw you. It's fine. I was talking, so we didn't need you in this moment. All right, now let me get back to my story. I'm breaking down all the scenarios. So Cejudo wants more money to fight right now, right? John Jones is saying, I have no problem with what I made in my last fight at 205. I want to be incentivized. I want more money to go up to heavyweight to fight Ngannou. Jorge Masvidal is saying, you paid me X amount to fight Nathan Diaz at Madison Square Garden for the BMF title. Now you're saying you want to pay me less money to fight against Kamaru Usman for the real belt. Conor isn't even talking about money. Conor's saying, I just want to fight. You guys need to get me a fight. Like, I'm frustrated. I had a horrible 2019. Here I am, healthy, on the straight and narrow. I'm out of trouble. Can you get me my 3 fights the season that I talked about? So can you say that maybe money is a factor in all of these things? Yes, but they all have different gripes with the UFC. It's not like they're all talking about the same thing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does.
And so Conor's main thing is, hey, guys, I told you I wanted to fight 3 times. Can you get me a fight? And perhaps it's an indictment on the matchmaking. Perhaps you could say like, hey, they should have had someone ready. Like, okay, Gaethje, Khabib are fighting in September. I don't think it makes any sense to have Conor wait for the winner of that fight, because now we're talking December, January. You have a healthy Conor McGregor. I know there are no fans in attendance. There's no gate.
I think part of that is, I think that's part of the biggest reason, though, honestly. And if Conor wants to fight, I say get him a fight. Give him somebody. I mean, there's somebody anybody will fight Conor McGregor. But when you look at the business, you got to admit, that's a massive loss not having fans to a Conor McGregor fight. Whereas even when I fight John Jones, the ringside tickets are $1,100, $1,200. Conor McGregor fights Donald Cerrone, the ringside seats are $2,500.
But is it worth icing him?
No, it's not worth icing him. Find him a fight, but I understand where the hesitation comes. Because what if Conor goes into a fight and gets say he has another performance like he had against Cowboy, great. But what if he gets hurt in the fight and now he fought in July, can't fight again, and he didn't fight in front of fans? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't believe the UFC is going to ever go back to allowing fans until you can sell out arenas again. So it's like, I understand the hesitation, but if he's so upset that he's going to walk away, I say get him a fight. There's get him Diaz. I mean, let him fight Anderson Silva. Just get him a fight.
Well, here's what I told his team. I wish that he didn't use the R word, right? Because when people see the
too
tweet,
many times,
people are like, oh, they roll their eyes, and they don't actually then listen to what he says. Now, the first 2 times he did it, he didn't do an interview that day. Luckily enough, he spoke to me and he explained his feelings, and I understood where he was coming from. Initially, here's what I thought. Initially, I thought he was sitting at home. He was watching the fight with Amanda Nunes and Felicia Spencer. He heard the broadcast talking about how she's now the first double champion to defend the titles, at the same time and all that stuff. And he took that as a slight. So he's like, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm out. That was my initial reaction when I saw the tweet, and maybe that contributed a little bit. But then when I spoke to him, I realized the guy's just frustrated. He's watching other people fight in empty arenas, like, hey, can you just get me a fight? And so I understand the frustration. Now the big question is, can they figure out a way to make this worthwhile for them financially when you're not going to have anyone in attendance? I personally feel like he will, like, if you get him on the July 11th card, there's still not going to be any sports. You're going to make a killing with that pay-per-view.
Yeah, you're going to make a ton of pay-per-view, but yes. And you should get Conor on the July 11th card. I agree with you in that sense. Get him in there, get him fighting, because even if it's Jan versus Aldo for the title, Conor McGregor goes at the top of the card over that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he makes it a massive card. Anytime he's involved, it becomes a massive card. But you have to pay Conor McGregor. You understand? Like, Conor's not going to take any less money, and he's going to sell a ton of pay-per-views. But again, one direct source of income, one big, massive amount of the money that he makes or that he makes for the company comes from that gate. That's all eliminated. But Conor's still going to want to be paid in the exact same way. Do you understand? And
Sure.
As he should.
Well,
but
he never made a cut of the gate, but I'm sure.
No, but still, like,
they know that it's coming.
You take into account, like, right, hey, even if I'm not giving Conor any of the gate, I know that that's a $10 million gate. So if I got to pay Conor $15 million, knowing what he's going to make for me on the pay-per-view, I know that he had a $10 million gate at minimum. And the merchandise sales are up when Conor fights. Like, everything is just bigger. I mean, I remember I go to fights and I look at the merchandise stands, and there's a few throughout the concourse. But when Conor fights, they're everywhere. They're outside the arena. They're inside the arena. Everything's just bigger. When he competes, and that whole aspect of that is gone when he fights in front of no fans. So I get why there's a little hesitancy there. But it's not worth risking losing him for the long term because you can't make him happy right now.
Yeah, and we're seeing this in boxing too. Like Terrence Crawford said, hey, I want to, I don't want to fight now. I want to wait on the sidelines until the fans come in, because in boxing, the model is different, right?
And they get paid on all that.
Yeah, they get paid on all that, but it's kind of the same thing because Conor plays by a different set of rules.
Yes,
my main thing is, I wish he didn't use the R word, right? Because I think what he is saying is legitimate. Like, hey, I was out. I want to fight. And you have a hungry Conor wanting to fight.
Motivated.
You gotta figure it out. You got to
make it happen. Again, it's not worth the penalty if he's going to walk away. It's not worth it. You got to make it work for him in that sense.
But he told me back in January, I'll never retire. I think we'll see him again. I think what he's just trying to say was like, I'm frustrated, right?
He's very frustrated, and that's his way. He's like, man, I can walk away from this thing, because if anybody can truly walk away, it is Conor McGregor. I mean, Cejudo, I believe, is so smart with his money that he can walk away. Jones has made a ton of money. So because he's made so much money, maybe he can walk away. Masvidal made big money against Diaz, but it's not like for years we've been talking about all the money that Jorge's made. No. I think he's the one that's actually in the toughest spot, because I don't think he has as much financial security as the rest of the guys. But he's saying he's trying to fight for that financial security. by doing what he's doing.
So I want to ask you this question. Of the four, and the answer could be none, who has the most legitimate gripe in your opinion? You could say they're all out of their mind and they shouldn't be complaining. You could say all four. Who has the most legitimate gripe? And I've been thinking about this question. So if you want me to answer first while you think, that's okay. But I want to ask you, who do you think has the most legitimate gripe? Is it Cejudo, who says, and by the way, Cejudo said today, there's only one fight that I'll come back for. It's Volkanovski. So, I don't think a lot of people believe that Cejudo is done because he doesn't go away. The guy doesn't go away. Like, make us miss you, Henry, for God's sakes. Like, stop talking for a month or a week. Or is it Jones who's saying, pay me more to go to Ngannou? Is it Masvidal who's saying, you need to pay me what you paid me for Nate or more because I'm a bigger star now? Or is it Conor who's just like, hey, guys, like, give me a fight and I'll do whatever. But, obviously you're going to lose. You're going to lose on the gate or the no gate.
I think, honestly, I don't believe that anyone's I don't know what they're asking for. Do you understand? So I don't know how to base my answer. I don't know if Jones is wrong unless he's asking for something outlandish. Right? I truly believe that Jones and the UFC are going to make it work. I think that they're going to come to a number that works for him. Maybe he won't fight Ngannou. He'll continue to make the money that he's making. The only one that I don't. So Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz is going to sell, right? That's a guarantee. But is that a credit to Jorge or Nate Diaz, right? If Jorge said the other day that, why do you want to pay me less because I'm fighting a guy that can't sell? Well, you're the biggest star. You should be able to sell the pay-per-view. Do you understand? Like, it's like, did the pay-per-view sell based on Jorge or did it sell based on Nate Diaz? Does Henry Cejudo move the needle? How do you base what he's worth? And has he met or not gotten to that expectation? So I think the biggest gripe, honestly, is Conor, because he just wants to fight. Just get the guy a fight. He's not talking about money. And I believe that the loss on the financial side is on the UFC. Like Dana always says, they take all the risk, right? This is a situation where I believe Conor just wants to fight, and you got to hope that his star will shine as bright as it normally does, and he'll sell enough pay-per-view to make up for anything you lose on the live portion of the fight.
I don't disagree. I think that's and in many respects that might be the easiest one to solve, right? Because
yes.
he's not, again, he's like, he made a point to say, like, it's not about money, but it's about, I want to fight. And he also said, like, I'm getting tired of this. It doesn't excite me, but I think he loves fighting and he'll always love fighting and he'll be a fighter forever. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's fighting on the same card as his son, Conor Jr., who he'll probably try to groom to be a fighter as well, try to do like a LeBron James thing. But I think that Masvidal is the most dangerous for two reasons. Number one, in the past, this is not new, by the way. Like, we've seen people openly feud with the UFC. I remember when Randy Couture did it back in 2007 and tried to get Mark Cuban involved. He wanted to fight Fyodor Emelianenko, all that stuff. And then what happens every time? What happens is they cut a deal with that guy. He's happy, and then he stays quiet, right? No one actually, like, I think a lot of fans are asking, is this going to be the thing that galvanizes everyone to create a union and an association? But historically, what happens is you get yours and you stay quiet, right? Masvidal is the first one to now start saying, like, hey, you've upset me. Now I'm taking a step back and I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the whole business. And my understanding from talking to his team is he feels disrespected. Masvidal, remember, is a guy whose father, escaped communist Cuba, who knows what it feels like, to be oppressed, so to speak. And I think some of those feelings are coming out in him. And so he's not stopping, right? Like, he goes on these tweet rants where he's talking about everything. So he's the most dangerous. And I do understand where he's coming from when it comes to the idea, like, wait, I fought for essentially a fake belt and I'm getting more for that than for the real belt. How does that make sense? Now, one is happening in the midst of a pandemic. One happened at MSG. There's the gate stuff that we just talked about. But I understand his gripe as well. And I think that the UFC needs to do a better job right now in explaining to the public these things and not just say, like, hey, everyone's acting crazy. All my guys are acting crazy. Like, Dana keeps saying my guys are acting crazy because of the pandemic. With all due respect to you fighters, DC, I see you all training. You all seem very happy. You don't seem like you're acting crazy. I think people are just starting to, speak up, and we're using the pandemic as the excuse for their disillusionment, when one, I think, has nothing to do with the other. They need to explain it better, or not, or just let the fighters continue to control the narrative.
I think it also, honestly, man, like it'll come to a point where, all these fighters, like the fighters you are entitled to, these guys are all entitled to how they're feeling right now. There is no reason that they should not voice their displeasure. But ultimately, as a guy, I'm just explaining this as a guy that's a friend to the fighter, that in all business, and this is all business, doing things publicly always makes it so much more tense. It's just so much more tense. It's easier to do these things directly. I know the public won't like hearing that because everybody likes the story. But the reality is, it's so much easier to do things in a more direct approach, because here's the deal. You can have 1 million fans, on all these fans on your side rooting you on, and all the reporters rooting you on saying this is the way to do it. But ultimately, if it doesn't cause for wholesale change, the only person that's going to lose out is the fighter. And that's just the truth, because as you said, man, all these people have taken this approach. They've been paid, they've gotten quiet, and the UFC just continues to grow and grow and grow. And it's just a dangerous battle to go about publicly. And I just think that it always feels good when people are rooting you on and patting you on the back and saying good job. But ultimately, the people that suffer, if it doesn't work out in their favor, is the fighter. And those same people that are telling you to go and fight this organization that's allowed you to make all this money and become who you are, those people don't give you money and when things are starting to go sideways. You still got to look at yourself and go, how do I get back to where I want to be? And that's to go back to where you were. You're going to have to go back, because, hey, man, if they start icing themselves out, you see it with big companies all the time, right? When these people go through these lawsuits, they just extend you and extend you and extend you. And then when you dry up, that company continues to roll. And it's like, man, I just think that direct is the best way for these guys to handle it, especially John Jones, because he's got all kinds of power, right? I mean, it's shown in all the indiscretions how he's been saved on so many occasions. He has a ton of power.
He has a ton of power until he loses, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't lose, Ariel. That's the thing.
I mean, but is it possible, by the way, that he's speaking out now because he saw what happened against Dominic Reyes, and he's like, okay, now's the time to push my chips into the middle of the table? That's possible too.
Maybe.
It's not as
But do you understand what I'm saying, though?
Yes,
do you understand
I get
what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, as a guy that I'm just saying, guys, like, I get it. But like Conor's thing, easy to fix. So publicly, whatever. But all these like contractual issues, I think these guys should be doing that directly. And if they don't want to deal with Dana, talk to Hunter. Hunter's very like reasonable in a lot of situations. Dana's like one of us. He gets, if he gets mad, he gets mad. But the other guy, Hunter's not like that.
Hunter Campbell, you're talking about, who I described as sort of like the GM, the general counsel of the UFC, who does a lot of these deals. I mean, Dana said it on Saturday. I don't know why he never actually references Hunter. He always says like my guy or my lawyer, this and that. He's a very important player in the organization. He said, I'm not the one negotiating these deals. It's other people. And that's probably for the best, because as you said, he is so emotional.
Yeah, he gets mad.
He does say in the post-fight press conference, like, hey, these guys could do whatever they want. Like, if they don't want to fight, they don't want to fight. And I think some people look at that, because I'm asked this, like, all right, so then why don't they just go fight somewhere else? Well,
they can't.
It's not that easy.
You're under contract. Yeah, it's not that easy. But you cannot fight. But then if you don't fight, then ultimately, who does it hurt?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I'm saying.
And he also said these guys just signed new deals, and they did. And I wrote about this last week. But you know very well, if they give you a big deal to fight at MSG, like if you have a contract and you say, all right, I'll take this fight at MSG and I want more money, they'll say yes, but then they'll tack on more fights, right? That's why all these guys have new deals, because they just went through the song and dance of the negotiation. Like, if Masvidal gets more money to fight Usman, he's getting more fights on that contract. That's just the game. That's the game. So they'll never be free agents. That's why I wrote it on ESPN last week. the system is broken because it's always like, I'm going to negotiate the next time. Who are you waving at, by the way? What's going on over there?
It's a fly or something.
Okay.
I'm just waving it.
I just think the whole system is broken, and I don't know how to fix it necessarily, but these guys are upset because of the number of fights, and these guys are saying, hey, you honored a deal, which they're very well within their rights to say that, and they can't meet in the middle, and now we're seeing it all kind of combust here.
Yeah, Ariel, but like so again, like you said, we talked about this with Scottie Pippen, right? They could just say, no, this is what you're signed to. This is what you have to fight for, and you're going to either fight these fights or you're not going to fight, and you're still going to be under contract. But when guys are like, I want more money, they say, okay, we'll give you more money. But then, like you said, they tack on more fights, right? It's like, but you get the money. The company gets the fights. It's just the way business goes across the board. So when you go to ESPN, Ariel, and your contract is about to expire, and you say, I want more money, they're going to say, okay, we'll give you more money. But then you're going to get a new contract for just years, right? You'll have years to work to earn that money, right? And you may get more in terms of yearly in that time, but you're not going to get more money for a year. You're going to get more money for another 4 or 5 year contract. They're going to lock you down, and that's going to work. And in year 2, you're probably going to be like, you know what, man? If my star has gotten bigger, if I'm shining brighter than I ever have, you may say, I want more money again. But you think that when you go get more money, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to give you more money for the remainder of this contract, or they're going to extend that contract longer when you get more money. It's just the way it works. Like,
it's very complex. It's a very complex
so when
issue.
Steph Curry signs that Supermax, he doesn't sign that Supermax just to finish out the contract he's on.
Sure.
They add years. It's the way it works in all sports.
Yeah, but again, it's different because in our sport, it is in years, right? Like you sign a 7-fight deal, you don't fight, that gets paused, right? It's not like you can sit out and you get injured and the clock keeps running. So I understand the idea of comparing it to other sports, but it's just so different than other sports, right?
But then even Dana says, you're healthy, I'm obligated to give you 3 fights a year. Yeah. So essentially, when you sign a 6-fight contract, you're signing a 2-year contract if you fight the way that you're supposed to fight. If you're healthy and you can go, you can get those 6 fights in 2 years. So essentially, you're getting 2-fight contracts, 2-year contracts. I'm sorry.
Okay, very cool. You think Conor fights this year?
I do, and I think they make it work with Conor for July. If Conor just wants to fight, I think they make it work for him. It would be very smart to make it work for him.
You think Masvidal fights Usman after all this a week later? Or do you think they go with Burns?
I think Burns is going to get the title fight. I don't know. Hats off to Jorge for standing up for what he believes in, and I think that he will do what he's saying, and he'll wait. But I just believe that I don't believe, and God, I'm trying not to like make it seem. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not agreeing with Jorge, but I don't believe. How many fights does Jorge have? 40 fights? He's 26.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
What's his record? What's Jorge's record?
I'll look it up for you while you speak.
Yeah, he isn't a guy that has held the belt for 10 years like Jones and made millions upon millions and upon millions of dollars. So I just don't know.
Maybe that's why he wants to cash in now, right? Because he's never been more 35-13. So what is that?
That's 48 fights. It's almost 50 fights in his career. He wants to make more money, but because he hasn't had that sustained success at the top of the sport, I don't know if the dollars will match and allow him to sit out as long as some of these other dudes.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.